Our text today is the epistle reading. Dear friend, I have no greater joy than to hear that my children are walking in the truth. These two little letters at the tail end of the Bible are the shortest documents in the New Testament, and they are known to most of us only by number. The second and the third epistles of St. John. The two of them obviously are a pair, written by the same person, on the same day, to the same place, on the same subject, and they are the same length, a single sheet of parchment. The former was written to the church, the elder, to the chosen lady and her children, whom I love in the truth. But this one is written to an individual, the elder, to my dear friend Gaius, whom I love in the truth. John calls himself the elder partly because he's a very old man. He is the last surviving member on earth of the apostolic band of 12. And when you've been around that long, and you've baptized and confirmed and married most of the people, you tend to speak of them as my children, and they of you as the old man or the elder. We do not know exactly who the man Gaius was, because there are 4 guys in the New Testament who have that same name. Now that's not surprising, for the name Gaius and the feminine form Gaia, like Jesse and Jessica, James and Jamie, were the most popular names in the empire at that time. You all Latin students know that that's how they spoke their marriage vows at the altar. Ubi tu Gaia ego Gaius. Wherever you are Gaia, I will always be Gaius. And where you are Gaia, I will forever be your Gaius. One in name, body, soul, life, and death. 3 times in the first 11 words, you have the word love. Dear Gaius, beloved Gaius, my friend Gaius, whom I love in the truth. Now, John does not throw that word around loosely. It's the same word the Bible uses for God's love for us, as in, God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son. It's the same word used for the love that God creates in us, as in, love one another. John insists that truth is the basis of love. Truth is the only atmosphere in which love can thrive. And when you think about that for a moment, that's true. We have a proverb, there is no honor among thieves. Well, of course not. How can you honor somebody you don't trust? And how can you be a friend to somebody who's cheating you or cheating on you, who's lying to you or lying about you? You can't do it. Lovers are face to face. Friends are shoulder to shoulder and side by side. Now, if you're pursuing the truth, and I am pursuing the truth, we can walk along together. But if for you the truth is whatever you happen to think it is at the moment, and if for me the truth is whatever is convenient at the moment, we ain't going to be walking together very long. My dear friend, Gaius, John writes, back at the seminary, they told us to keep our distance from the rank and file in the church. Don't get close. Don't get involved with the people. Don't be friends on the grounds that it might blur the hard decisions you have to make. That's based on the theory that you can't make friends with the boss, and the boss can't be friends with the hired help. I disagree, because Jesus renounced that model. You can have a pecking order in the corporate world, in the military, in the political arena, but so shall it not be among you, Jesus said. Whoever would be great among you has got to be the servant of all. Jesus says, I have not called you servants, because a servant does not know what the master is doing. I call you friends, because everything that I have learned from my Father, I have shared with. Well, there's that great line. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man laid down his life for his friends, and you are my friends. How can any pastor tell the people in the congregation that they ought to love each other when he is not willing to do the same thing himself? You try to picture Jesus with a professional, working relationship with his disciples, and you can't do it. For 3 years, they traveled together, ate together, slept together, prayed together, worked together. With Jesus, it's up front and personal. The flame from his spirit kindled their spirits. It wasn't a 9 o'clock to 5 relationship and then everybody goes home. Oh no. Jesus gave them the chance to ask questions, to disagree, to express their doubts, to drag their feet, and even to argue. Because that's what friends do. Now, there's a downside to this. Anybody you love, or a friend, can disappoint you, let you down, and disown you when you need it the most. So what are you going to do, not love anybody? You want a guarantee? Life doesn't come with a guarantee. It's part of the story. Jesus called Judas Iscariot. He believed in that man. Saw more potential in him than many others that he might have chosen. And nothing the enemies ever did to Jesus, he said, hurt him as much as the man that hath broken bread with me hath lifted up his heel against me. And yet Jesus did it. He did not train a sales force. He grew a fellowship, a family of brothers and sisters based on love, evidenced by truth. The outstanding proof of that occurs that night at the Last Supper, when Jesus drops a hand grenade right at the table. One of you will betray me. They searched his face. One and then another asked, "Is it I, Lord?" Nobody said, "Oh, I know who he's talking about. I've suspected him for a long time." They did not all look down the table at Judas, and they didn't all look away from Judas, which would have been just as telltale. They never even picked up on it when Judas got up and left the room. They thought that as treasurer, he had forgotten to give some gift to the poor on their behalf. They were convinced that if this terrible deed were ever to be done, then I'd be the one to do it. "Lord, is it I? I'll accept your reading of my life because I know what a shambles it is." Oh, that's a fellowship. And John continues and says, "Dear friend, I pray that you may enjoy good health and that everything may go well with you, just as your soul is doing well." I was going to write this line to a friend of mine once who was in a jam, but then I thought, if his physical life is going as well as his spiritual life, he's going to get sick and die tomorrow. Spiritual life first, foremost. John doesn't wish, he doesn't hope, he prays that you might enjoy God's blessings in all the departments of life. And good health is one of them. And that everything may go well with you literally means you may have a good journey through this life. It's always wrong to drive a wedge between the physical and the spiritual. Now it's true. One is temporal, the other is eternal. The physical is for now, the spiritual is forever. But God made you both. He gave to you a frame of flesh and blood. And he put within your hearts a spirit that makes life worth living. Jesus believed that this world of ours, with all of its faults, is still our Father's world. And he saw in the fowl of the air and the flowers of the field his Father's providential care. How the rain falls on the just and on the unjust. The sun shines on the good and the bad. He saw evidences of God's hand in the weeds growing out there in the wheat field, in the fisherman's nets that brought in both good and bad, in the budding of a fig tree, the compacted power in a tiny mustard seed, and the permeating power of a little leaven, yeast, in a lump of flour. Jesus never put down the physical. He's the one who noticed that the crowds who followed out into the wilderness were weary and faint and far from home. He understood the plight of the father and then the mother, who said that they couldn't stand to watch the suffering of their children any longer. He never averted his eyes from the sightless, blind, the deformed, members of the lame, from the hideous lot of the lepers. He was there for the minor embarrassments like the bridal couple at Cana who ran out of wine at their reception, and for the major disgrace of the shamed creature who was caught in the very act of adultery. And he wept the same tears the other mourners did. there in the cemetery at Bethany. And he listened to the words of a man who was in the pangs of death. Lord, remember me. And he answered, today shalt thou be with me in paradise. It gives me great joy. John goes on to hear, when the brothers come, they tell me about your faithfulness to the truth and how you keep walking in the truth. Gaius did not say that about himself. What a good guy he was. John believed Gaius was a good guy because others said that about. They saw in Gaius a harmony between his profession and his practice, his creed and his conduct. Gaius faithfully held to the truth, and then, what do we say today? Gaius talked the talk, but then he walked the walk. I love the term walk of life. There are days when there are 10,000 distractions, and the decisions you've got to make and the demands on your time have got you out of breath, always on the run, can't seem to catch up. But there are seasons in life when you come to a standstill. The shop or office where you work closes its doors. Or you're laid up, put on a shelf by some physical disability. But most of the time, it's the walk of life. Hard, homely, unglamorous, plodding along day after day, year after weary year, same road, same companion, same scenery. But it's the only thing that counts. Walking in faithfulness to the truth and walking in the embodiment of the truth, who is Jesus. Keep on, keeping on, walking in the truth. Amen.